Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and have we got a packed show for you this morning. So many big topics to talk about. Probably one of the best shows we've done in quite a few weeks, and we do good shows. Anyway, look, Harry Maguire's been talking to the press, basically saying that he was open to a transfer in the summer and still would be effectively in January or next summer. Jadon Sancho looking to outlast Ten Hag and stay at the club. Some big stuff coming out of the club in relation to Mason Greenwood, which we will talk on as well. Kobbie Mainoo, positive news about him. It's not a new injury. It's just a precaution. Also, very big statement coming out from Alan Brazil on TalkSport this morning that we have to delve into straight away. And a few other bits as well, but lots and lots to get into. Really, really, really big topics, as I said. But let's start off with this story that's come out from Alan Brazil this morning on TalkSport. Obviously, well, look, basically what he said is that the players are not having Ten Hag. He literally said on air, you've got to be careful about where this stuff comes from. But somebody we know has been told by Man Utd players or player that they were disgusted about the treatment of Cristiano Ronaldo. That Jadon Sancho's a great lad and works really hard in training, and they're not having the manager, and the players are not happy with the manager. Look, that's national TV, that's national radio, and it's a very, very big statement, and it would be irresponsible of the United's biggest fan community in the world not to react to that, even if it is reacting to protect this man. Because I didn't put this on because of that statement by Alan Brazil. I had this on this morning anyway. But I have to jump in on this and say, I said to you about a week ago that I'd heard from somebody within the club that wasn't a player that, there was, disappointment about De Gea leaving. But ultimately, they back the manager. They don't have a problem with the manager. The manager makes the decisions. It was disappointing that De Gea went because he was a popular player in the dressing room and the defence did well last year. And maybe there's a bit of a hangover from that. But there certainly wasn't talk of dissent about, it's bloody ridiculous De Gea's going, what's this manager on about? They might think that privately. They might think, you know what, I'm not so sure about getting rid of that. But that happens all the time. Managers sell players that the players in the dressing room think, I don't know whether we should have done that. Because they're all mates and everything like that. To have that out there on national radio, that the players don't want Ten Hag, is really inflammatory. It's really inflammatory. And look, I have a show on TalkSport, so but I'm fully aware that people on there, I've called it out in the past, and I'll call it out now, and I will call it out now. I think if you're going to say stuff like that, you shouldn't protect your source. I don't think you should protect your source. You should say who it was who told you, and then they should be saying what players said it, because I agree with AK. You can't not name the players in that situation. Look, I can be told that, Cristiano Ronaldo is not going to be fit for the weekend game, and I can tell you the night before the game. You can say that's wrong or right, but that source is obviously accurate, right, and it's useful information. You can argue the rights and wrongs of that. But we've just won a game at the weekend. We're in a bad situation. We are being led to believe that, we're building something with Ten Hag and the players are with him, and it looked like they were on Saturday. But then you've got a story like that on national radio that the players don't want Ten Hag, that they're disgusted with him for Ronaldo, which was a year ago, that, Jadon Sancho's a good lad. Look, I'm allowed my opinion. That's out there on national radio. I'm allowed my opinion on the United Stand community. I'll always say this. I very much doubt that Alan Brazil knows somebody who is getting information from the foreign players. So I'll say that straight away. Everyone's entitled to a different opinion, but I'll say that straight away. So you can narrow it down very, very quickly who's been talking to Alan Brazil's friend about, being disgusted. And, Jadon Sancho's a good lad, English player. Are we heading down the normal path of, Brexit FC? I think we probably are, if there's any truth in it. But I would also throw back that the Ronaldo thing was a year ago. The Sancho thing is ongoing. United have just won a game at the weekend. I'm not having it that the players aren't having Ten Hag. I'm not having it. I can't even begin to think who these players are that don't like Ten Hag and think he's not very good. I can't think who they are, because you think, well, it could be that player, and that's really unfair anyway. It's really unfair to go after any individual player because you don't know, and we've done this before. You know, remember with Ranić, and it was Henderson, it was Maguire, it was Ronaldo. You can't do it because you don't know. But what I think is really, I wouldn't say it's naughty, because it's just the way the media's always worked. I mean, we've had England managers with their head, top half of their head, turnips, you know, literally turnip head. So this is the way the media works. So we can't pretend that it isn't. But I don't think it does us any favours that, you know, there's a story out there that's there this morning that United players have told somebody who's told Alan Brazil that they don't like Ten Hag, they're not having Ten Hag. You know, Sancho's a good lad. It's disgusting the way he treats some players. You can't have that. You can't have that. And the club need to be a little bit more on the front foot with this, because you can't have that. It's way too inflammatory. You know, is it made up? I don't know. But is it true? I don't know. But it's really inflammatory, and it's really not helpful in this scenario, because I've always felt that there would be a media witch hunt against Ten Hag anyway, and I don't like bullying, so I will always try and, you know, stick up for a manager that I want to do well. I don't agree with it. I think there is a movement to just go in on Ten Hag because it you know, it sells papers. If people still buy papers. Pochettino started to turn a corner. They like Pochettino. Ten Hag is not really approachable. He's more of a disciplinarian. He's a bit like a head teacher. He doesn't have that close relationship with the media. The media want that. The mainstream want their arse kissing. They want to be, oh yeah, you're great. And Ten Hag doesn't do that. So we need to just keep a watching brief on that, because I don't like it, and two, I can't really compute who it would be, what players it would be that don't like Ten Hag because of how he treated Ronaldo and how he's treating Sancho. That's a long period of time. It's a long period of time. And let's not forget, in between that time, Ten Hag let Jadon Sancho take 3 months off football and he wasn't injured. So it's a lot of contradiction in there. Just be wary of the movement against Ten Hag in the media. Why can't the Glazers admit they destroyed the club and sell up to a proper ownership today, says Andy Weatherall. Okay, well, let's move on, because actually what I wanted to start off talking about today was about Harry Maguire, about Jadon Sancho, a little bit about Mason Greenwood, and a few other bits as well. Maybe we can come back to that. But so Harry Maguire's been talking. I mean, look, I make no apologies for this. I'll say it straight away. Every time there's an international break, Harry Maguire becomes the focal point. I don't know how Harry Maguire's agents or PR team work it, but when he's for England, he has total control of it. It's Harry Maguire this, it's Harry Maguire that, it's Harry Maguire this, and it's Harry Maguire again. We had it in March, we had it in September, and we've got it again now. He is always the focal point. What I would say on behalf of Man United fans, and I don't speak on behalf of Man United fans, but I think on this, it's important to say that on behalf of Man United fans, we wanted Harry Maguire to play against Brentford. Don't start turning this Harry Maguire hate campaign back onto Man United fans again, because the English press love to do it. And I and most of you wanted Harry Maguire to play against Brentford. So there's your haters. It's nothing to do with hate. He's not been good enough for the last 2 years. That's why people wanted him to go. But at the weekend, we had an injury crisis. And even before we knew Varane was out, I and many of you said, I'd like to see Harry Maguire play at centre-back, shift Lindelof to full-back, Dalot to left-back, so we can put Amrabat in the midfield. So this constant nonsense that Man United fans have got a witch hunt for Harry Maguire, and he's being booed every week, and this, that, and the other. I mean, Harry Maguire in his interview quite rightly pointed out David Beckham and said, look, you look at the abuse he got. I mean, yeah, it's completely different. Harry Maguire gets a few jeers for playing for England. He doesn't get booed playing for Manchester United. It's a fact. And, he played well at the weekends. He got an assist, and he'll probably play against Sheffield United. Fair play. That, we've got an injury crisis. I haven't got a problem with that. What I found interesting about Harry Maguire was what he said about West Ham. And he said that in relation to moving to West Ham in the summer, he basically sort of said, look, West Ham's a big club. He basically said in so many words that he would have been open to the move, but it never became a possibility because West Ham and Manchester United never agreed a deal. And he said, but obviously, I'm here to work for my place at Manchester United, but obviously I've got to play. And I think what Maguire was basically doing, and it was quite refreshing actually to hear him talk about football and not about, abuse and this, that and the other, because I just don't acknowledge that at United. I don't think there's a witch hunt against Harry Maguire at all. I just think he's the fourth choice centre-back, and as the fourth choice centre-back, you don't get picked very often. But I think with regards to him talking about a transfer, it was quite interesting because it's very clear that he would have been open to a move to West Ham. It's very clear that, game time is going to be important to him. And it was very interesting that for two reasons that he said, it never became an option because Man United and West Ham didn't agree. But also I think he's leaving the door open in January and next summer because, he obviously, if United had agreed with West Ham, I think he would have gone. And I think he wants game time, so I still think he would go, which is a real positive. Obviously, he might turn it around at Man United. Stranger things have happened. If we become a mid-table club, then he can play for Man United. I said this last night. I'm not being disrespectful, but Scott McTominay, Harry Maguire, Anthony Martial, Christian Eriksen, if we become a mid-table club, they may as well play because they're good enough to play mid-table football. If we want to win a league, they'll be back on the bench. So depending on what United's future is, Maguire might have a future at United because if we're going to be between 6th and 10th, he may as well play. If we want to be above that, he won't be good enough. And we don't know what we want to be, do we? So Maguire might have a future at Manchester United. On the whole, Man United and West Ham didn't agree a deal thing. Look, that still, in my opinion, Maguire still has a responsibility there. Because the reason that Man United and West Ham didn't agree a fee was because it was about the payoff for Harry Maguire because of his wages. So United and West Ham agreed a transfer fee of 30 million quid, but they couldn't agree on the fact that West Ham were going to pay him around 100 grand a week, and he's got 2 years left on his contract at 200 grand a week. So somebody needed to make up a payment to Harry Maguire of about 5 million quid, and United didn't want to do it. So that's why the deal fell through, really. It wasn't because West Ham didn't want him, and it wasn't because Man United didn't want the fee that was offered. It was the fact that Harry Maguire's on 200 grand a week and West Ham wanted to pay 100 grand a week, and there needed to be some middle ground there that United couldn't negotiate, which is on United, really. Some people would say, Maguire's very greedy, and, I think at the time I probably would have said that because I just wanted him to go. But, time is a great healer. He's on 200 grand a week. He's got 2 years left on his contract. United, actually, he has a right to say that's my contract. It's the same thing that's going to happen in January with Jadon Sancho when somebody offers Sancho a way out on 100 grand a week and he says I'm on 350 at United. United need to pay me off, and United go no. People will go Sancho should just piss off. But actually he has signed a contract and it's on United to fulfill that contract. And as we've said time and time again, United pay stupid contracts. But interesting from Maguire because I think it was he's in a better place because he played at the weekend. Obviously, he's going to play for England, and there is a Euros coming up. But I would still say, if I was anywhere near to Maguire, you need to be very, very careful because if Varane and Martinez come back, you will be out of the team, and you will be sat on the bench. And the Euros are coming, and there's a lot of good centre backs coming through. So he does need to be careful of that. But you don't know United's future anymore. Give Erik Ten Hag a new contract to show these players he isn't going anywhere, says United. Get on board or get out of the club. It's interesting, though, because Maguire alluded to David Beckham speaking to him a few weeks ago and giving him a bit of advice. McTominay was on about, after he'd scored the goals, that he'd watched the David Beckham documentary. And I think David Beckham's documentary can be inspiring to many people. There's a fantastic line in there about how he was at Real Madrid and he'd basically been told that he wouldn't play for Real Madrid again, and he was training on his own, and he kept turning up early and he kept training, and eventually the team was doing badly, so they brought him in. They won the league, and it's a great story, and it's a true story. It's not made up, and there's a lesson in there for everybody, isn't there? That even when things are going bad, as long as you keep doing your job, things can turn around. There is a dangerous side to that, though, because there might be people out there that never give up and turn up to training on time, but you're still shit. Like, we all know these people. We've played with them at school. We've seen them in on a Saturday morning. They're just not very good at football. It's one thing to work hard and be David Beckham. It's one thing to work hard, turn up for training, and not be good enough. And I'm not naming names. So look, you can use David Beckham as an inspiration, but ultimately it still comes down to talent. And this is why it's sad about people like Jadon Sancho, because if he had the work ethic and work ethic and determination of David Beckham, he wouldn't be in a standoff with Manchester United. He'd be training. He'd swallow his pride and train. But look, my point was that, Scott McTominay or Harry Maguire or Christian Eriksen or whoever can say, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to fight for my Man United place. Do you want them to fight for you? Are they good enough to fight for their place? David Beckham doing it is David Beckham. Hard work isn't enough. You still need to have talent. Nathan Allen says, so every one of them players are his signings and now they want Eric out. So I'm confused. Are they really his signings? Because they would have give him time, really, says Nathan. Thank you very much. Andy Weatherall has gifted a membership as well. There's also a story coming out today from the from iPaper Sport, which is an outlet. I believe they are a sports outlet based in London, I would imagine, or maybe not, but they're a UK-based outlet. They put a story out last night saying that Jadon Sancho is not ready to give up on his Manchester United career yet, especially one under a different manager should Eric Ten depart the club and amid the club's latest struggles. So this sort of fits in with what we've already heard about Manchester United and Jadon Sancho, that there may well be a stance from Sancho where he thinks he can outlast Eric Ten Hag and have a new future. Well, look, it's only it might upset a few people, but it's only the Mourinho scenario whereby he didn't want to use certain players, and then what happened is those players ended up being part of United's future. I mean, we all saw the Ollie bounce, didn't we? Where certain players who'd been shit suddenly started playing brilliantly under the feel-good factor of Solskjaer. So those things can definitely happen. I'd never say never on it, but you have got to be a little bit wary of. I don't like it. I don't like what I said at the start and about this story of players not liking Ten Hag. The bottom line is, if I just call it for what it is, and I think we're all getting a bit tired of the Sancho situation, but if I call it for what it is, Jadon Sancho will have friends at Manchester United. Mason Greenwood's got friends at Manchester United. Mason Greenwood scores a goal, Garnacho, some of the younger players like it on Instagram. Now, you might not like that. You might love that. It doesn't matter whether you like it or love it. That's not my point. Jadon Sancho will have friends in the Man United dressing room. And again, you might predict who they are. You might predict who they aren't. Maybe it's all of the dressing room. Maybe some of them don't want to get involved. But ultimately, life is life. And if Jadon Sancho is your friend and he is being exiled, you cannot not have an opinion. There are some things in life you don't need to have an opinion on, but people always have an opinion on, sticking their nose in stuff. But if I'm playing in the dressing room, if I'm playing for Man United and I'm in the dressing room and Jadon Sancho's my mate and he's exiled and he's not allowed to train with us, we're still going to WhatsApp each other, might even still meet up, might play a bit of the AFC. We're not going to not talk about the situation. That can only be damaging to Eric Ten Hag. It can only be damaging. You've probably got mates that don't get on and you stay friends with both of them. You go for a beer with one of them or a meal for the other one, they will talk to you about the other person. And whilst you might say, I don't want to get involved, you're listening to their side. It's human nature to start having thoughts on it. It's not a good situation. And this is why, for me, it's an embarrassment for Manchester United. There's a statement from Richard Arnold about the Mason Greenwood stuff we're going to talk about in a minute. But Richard Arnold's the CEO of this football club. I respect the fact that he's busy, but this Sancho scenario is not good. It's not good, Richard. And it's your responsibility to resolve it. And it might not be easy to resolve, but you have to find a middle ground. And if that middle ground is Jadon Sancho's back training and Ten Hag and him need to just button up and get on till January, then that's better than this. This void is dangerous. We need a bridge over the void. because we wake up this morning and you get Alan Brazil on Talk Sport saying the players don't like Ten Hag, and Jadon Sancho is one of the reasons they don't like Ten Hag. Now, whether that's true or not, this Sancho situation is allowing that scenario to happen. And there's no doubt that Jadon Sancho is resentful. He's a 23-year-old who isn't playing football and is basically a public embarrassment. He won't like that if he thinks he's in the right. A lot of United fans don't like Sancho's stance. So he is going to feel like, if he feels he's right, he's going to feel that he's been wronged. He's going to feel like it's an injustice. He's going to feel frustrated. This is not a good situation for anybody, and it allows the stories about Ten Hag and the support he has in the dressing room to keep going. And I don't see an end to this. I mean, what's that saying? You're better off having your enemies inside the camp spitting out than outside the camp spitting in. And at the moment, Sancho is exiled outside the castle, and he can throw stones at it, and so can his. But more scarily, there might be people in the castle that Ten Hag thinks on his side who are actually sympathetic to Sancho. You can't have this situation. It's a conflict, and everyone needs within the club again. The owners are the ones that should go before Eric, says Nathan, because the new owners would get rid of every player that is causing bad club atmosphere. Eric has to deal with things, says Nathan. I'm backing Eric Ten Hag till the end. Tired of another temporary charge manager bounce every 2 years, says D1. Andy Weatherall was gifted a membership as well. Well, I agree with Nathan. I think that as I've said to you a few times in recent weeks, the sacking that I feel guilty about is Jose. Mourinho should have been given the power to do what he wanted to do, even though I disagreed with it at the time. I didn't want Martial to go, and obviously Mourinho did, and he probably wanted Pogba to go as well, and he probably wanted a few other people to go. But you've got to have a manager that is allowed to manage, and I'm sorry to be blunt again on a morning show, but this manager hasn't been allowed to manage. You can see it. You can see it. There was 4 players he wanted to sell in the summer. They're still here. There was 3 players he definitely wanted to sign. They're at other clubs. And the Jadon Sancho situation, I'm pretty sure Eric Ten Hag doesn't want him around the club, turning up to under-18 games, etc. I imagine he would want a firmer line on this. But United are not able to do it because they're in debt and money is important, and this is a very expensive asset. So Ten Hag is being undermined by the ownership. Mourinho was undermined by the ownership. Van Gaal was undermined by the ownership. It's very hard to manage Manchester United because they'll sell you the dream in the interview, but a year later they'll give you the reality. You don't have power. We can't give you that power. Player power still exists at this football club. Maguire is becoming the new Pogba. Every international break creates some kind of drama, says Jay. Well, no, I don't think Harry Maguire's created any drama at all. I think the the constant talk about abuse and stuff is ridiculous. But he played well at the weekend. I think we all wanted him to play at the weekend, and the West Ham stuff is interesting. I think it's an openness to move if he doesn't get game time, which I think we all hope he doesn't get game time, because to move forward, you need a Kim Min-jae. You need a better centre-back pairing than probably every centre-back pairing we've got, bar Varane and Martinez, which we know doesn't play very often. So, the openness to move, I think Lindelof goes next summer as well. I think Lindelof goes next summer. I think Maguire goes next summer. I think that was always the plan. I think Ten Hag knew that Maguire and Lindelof needed to go, and it was one summer, and it was one the next summer. And unfortunately, the club hasn't backed him on that. There's a lot of work to do. Look, I'm not here to talk on a news show about what needs to happen for Manchester United, but there's a hell of a lot of work to do. And I don't think that Ten Hag is out of the woods yet by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think he is. And it worries me. It does worry me. Anyway, back to the news. There's a few bits to talk about. I want to talk about this Greenwood stuff that's come out as well. But on Kobbie Mainoo, we touched about it last night. There was a bit of a story yesterday that Kobbie Mainoo had a relapse and was injured again. I said on the show last night that what I'd heard was that Mainoo was meant to play in a behind the closed doors game yesterday, but they didn't play him as a precaution because he's not quite ready. This has now been confirmed. Kobbie Mainoo is not injured again. He's still recovering from the injury he had on tour. He didn't play in the behind closed doors game because they felt that he was a little bit, not quite ready. So they left him out from that. Sorry, it's just a couple of twats in the chat to get rid of. Every now and again you see some. Should Eric Ten Hag out as clutching at straws, says Ariab. And I think that I think we're in for a bumpy ride. I don't expect things to get much better with United consistently. Consistency is always going to be the word. Anyway, Adam Crafton has put something out here. I bring it in because it's news. There's been a lot of time spent talking about Mason Greenwood over the last 12 months, and there was obviously, excuse me, I don't find it boring, I'm just tired. There's obviously been a lot said about it, and there was a lot of people unhappy in the club. As we know, Manchester United and, Richard Arnold had apparently said he was ready to bring Mason Greenwood back. And whilst there was an uproar in the fan base and in the media, there was also a lot of people in the club as well. So this is an employee's question to Richard Arnold during an organised all-staff meeting in September. They said, I've personally witnessed uncomfortable behaviour from male employees at this club to my female colleagues. I'm also very aware of comments that have been recently made public, as well as behind closed door, by senior executives that suggest an unconscious bias within the club. How can you ensure female staff are respected and valued across a club? And what process is in place for female employees to speak up if they feel uncomfortable by the actions or comments of certain members of staff? I mean, that is quite damning. Now, some of you might be switching off here and going, I'm not interested in this crap. But it's not crap. I mean, that is a female employee. I presume it's a female employee, actually. It just says an employee. But that is an employee of Manchester United asking a question to the CEO of Manchester United and saying that they've personally witnessed uncomfortable behaviour from male employees at this club to female colleagues. That is a big statement for Manchester United, isn't it? That is a really big statement. And Richard Arnold's reply, any abusive, disrespectful or sexist language is not acceptable by anyone at this club, and anybody affected by that should report instances immediately, either to their line manager, to HR or to an executive leadership team member. Well, it's been reported to you, Richard. So what are you going to do about it? So look, might be more trouble ahead for Manchester United there, because Richard Arnold should be leading from the front there and saying, I want names and I want the instances and I want them now. He also goes on to say on the learnings from the Mason Greenwood saga, this is from Richard Arnold, our CEO, the first is around continuing to strengthen the education and welfare support to players to make sure at the front of mind is promoting healthier relationships and behaviours, which I agree with. We've also reviewed our process for dealing with allegations to make sure that we have a robust and consistent framework for the future. Good. The other learning we've taken is to listen to feedback from domestic abuse charities and other groups, and in particular Women's Aid. And we've worked very close with them for a period of time to make sure that the language we use is sensitive to the perspectives of abuse survivors who may not be at all involved in the case that we're referring to, but find understandably the situation very sensitive, and will continue that engagement going forward. I mean, that's just ownership from Richard Arnold that they handled it badly. And they did handle it badly. The statements that Richard Arnold put out himself, that the club put out themselves around the Mason Greenwood case were very insensitive away from that case. And it's just another example of learning that really didn't need to be taking place if the club was in a better place. So, yeah, look, I thought I'd read that out because it is news. And it's just another example of Manchester United and the shit show it is, really. Can I just say as well, it would be remiss of me not to say this, happy 86th birthday to one of the greatest footballers that's ever lived, and our footballer, Sir Bobby Charlton. We've not really seen much of Sir Bobby for quite a while now, and there's all sorts of talk about whether how his illness is. We know that there'd been reports of him being ill. But and obviously Sir Bobby would be at every Manchester United game, as he always has been. So happy birthday to Sir Bobby, and an absolute legend of this football club. Netflix and Chilwell says, I'm fed up of using managers as puppets. If Eric stops playing his favourites, then the club clearly are undermining yet another manager. He should be able to manage, or Arnold might as well sit in the dugout. It's very difficult, though, Netflix and Chilwell, to manage a football club when it's not manageable. We all sit here and go, Ten Hag should be able to make decisions. Of course he should. But how does he make decisions when the club cannot sell players? When we're in debt, when the stadium's rusting, when the infrastructure at 4 or 5 other Premier League clubs is way better than ours? It's not as simple as that. The club is broken. Mates, you're getting slated on TalkSport right now, says Luke. Good. And I'm backing the manager because I'm fed up with the manager bounces. Then 18 months later, we went back to same bad attitude players when they fall out again, says Ray. And Andy's gifted as a membership there. This club is sick every day. It's the same. Nothing changes, says Jack. And also, thanks for that from Luke. Morning, Mark. It's an example of the passive approach and avoidance of responsibility from Richard Arnold. I have a similar leadership team at my work, and the effect on morale can't be understated. Mate, I do know people who work at Manchester United, and I do know that they're very, very good at their jobs, and I know that they're passionate that Manchester United is successful, and that is the same in the dressing room, and it's same in the coaching staff. These people want to be successful, but it's very hard to be successful when you're in a situation that's not set up to be a success. If you are a player for Manchester City, you go to work and everything is there for you. From the manager, from the board, from the facilities, from the infrastructure. The only responsibility you have is to yourself to perform. At Manchester United, you take some of those Man City players and you drop them into United for a month and they won't perform. Because the whole situation around them isn't geared up to be successful. Sorry, Ray, I didn't come back to you on that. You said, I'm backing the manager because I'm fed up of the manager bouncers. Then 18 months later, we want to be back to the same bad attitude. Yeah, some fans, Ray, are stuck in a spin cycle. They really are. They really are. Luke says you're getting slated on TalkSport right now. They've got my number. They've got my number. I can't be bothered with this sort of stuff. Look, what we do and what we do well is talk about things that we're passionate about. What we do is love football. What we do is love Manchester United. We might not always get it right, but that's what we're about. And what I don't do is, make stuff up and try and undermine this football club in a way that I know will damage it. If somebody needs to get the sack, reluctantly you have to say, Ollie out, Jose out. If somebody's not good enough, reluctantly you have to say, look, Donny needs to go, he isn't good enough. But it all comes from a place of passion and what you believe is right. They've got my number. PGMOL have got my number. Sky have got my number. Don't start gobbing off. Ring me up and we'll have a conversation, because that's what fans want. That's what people want. What I will not do is sit here and say, wow, players have turned on Ten Hag because they're disgusted with how he treated Ronaldo and they love Jadon Sancho. Who are these players? We have been through this. What people need to understand is that Manchester United fans over the last few years have been through so many things, time and time again, that you can try and turn us against the manager, but we don't want to sack a manager. He might need to be sacked, but we don't want to sack another manager. Even if we get stuffed by Liverpool again, we don't really want to be sacking a manager, because Ollie got stuffed. Mourinho got stuffed. Van Gaal got stuffed. And we know what will happen. We'll get another new manager that will go, I'm going to turn things round. And the team will do well for a year. And then the cracks will appear because they're always there. And then it will be sack another manager. And that's what they don't realise, is that we've had the dressing room leaks. We've had the media agenda against our manager and we've fallen for it. But this time, there's a percentage of our fans, and it's a high percentage, who are saying, we're not interested in dressing room leaks to drive another manager out. If you want to get on board with something that Man United fans will get behind, get behind real change at the top of the football club, whether it's the CEO, the director of football, or the Glazers. You know what? I've always said this. The Glazers need to go. But whatever stopped them sacking Arnold and bringing in a really good CEO? Whatever stopped them sacking Murta and bringing in a really good, sporting director? You know the names. You talk about them all the time. Why are the Glazers a sum of their parts? We want rid of the Glazers, but we want rid of the Glazers because we want a new board, a new infrastructure, a new stadium renovated. We want new recruitment. We want it's not just the Glazers. Like, we know that new owners means clearing house below. Why do we have to wait for the Glazers to go for all that to happen? Why in 10 years have they not removed people such as Richard Arnold and John Murta? Why are they there as well? So my point is, it's not just about changing the owners. Like, so much needs to be changed at that club. But what doesn't need to be changed, because it's been changed so many times, and it does. If you've got a car that keeps breaking down and you keep changing the tyres and it still keeps breaking down, why do you keep changing the tyres? And yet we have an absolute swarm of media outlets, ex-players, who lazily just go after the manager. We don't want to change the tyres. We need to change the engine. Why are you not capable of, getting on that? Why do you not understand that? And it's because they don't understand that. They don't understand the momentum, and they don't really think there's much of a story in going after the owners. There's more of a story in individualising it and making it about the manager. And that's really frustrating in that sense, because I no way am I saying that it's acceptable to get beaten by Galatasaray or beaten by Crystal Palace or beaten by Brighton. But if we sack another manager because the players turn on him and the media turn on him, how many times have we done that? And we've done it so many times. We need real change at this football club. And as I've said to you a few times this week, if Qatar buy the club and they sack Ten Hag within 6 months because they don't feel he's the right man, I don't care. I don't care. But what we cannot do is sack another manager under the Glazer regime. And what we have to do is we have to accept what we are. We are a mid-table football club scamming wins against Brentford. And it was a scam, and it was great, and I loved it. But we're scamming wins at home to Brentford in the last 2 minutes. That's what we're doing. And that's the level that we're at. We're not title contenders. We're not top 4 contenders. We are somewhere between 6th and 10th. That's what I think our ceiling is. Who's that down to? Is that down to the manager? In part, of course it is. You look at the start of the season and you think you're going to progress a little bit more. But this season reminds me of Mourinho's last season. And I said it in May. I might have even said it in April. I distinctly remember us having a conversation as a community. And I said, my concern about this season coming up is that it could go the same as Jose's last season, where you finish second and everybody is in that groove of, right, we finished second, next season we've got to get closer to Man City. And what happened? Mourinho didn't get the summer he wanted. There was a few issues about players he wanted to get rid of. Everybody else below us strengthened. They came through. We were miles off. Mourinho gets the sack because it's a fall-off. And you look at it and you go, Ten Hag got 3rd place, won as a trophy. Most people didn't predict that in his first year. Next season, we've got to get closer to City and Arsenal and go deep in the Champions League and win another trophy. We start the season, we're mid-table. He's fell off. He's fell off. But people don't look at why we fell off. I know why we fell off. Jurgen Klopp built a whole new midfield. Like, our midfield's not very good. We bought one player, Amrabat. I don't even think Mason Mount's a midfielder. We bought one player. Well, we haven't even bought Amrabat, so we bought Mount and a low knee. Jurgen Klopp's bought a brand new midfield. Spurs have got a new manager. Brighton have got the best recruitment in Europe. Arsenal have spent £100 million on one midfielder. Who else? Newcastle have spent well again. Aston Villa have just gone quietly about doing their business. Chelsea have spent £1 billion. No, everybody who was below us last year has strengthened, and the teams above us. So it's not a huge leap if you've got a brain to go, well, yeah, everybody else around us has actually strengthened in a more consistent and stable way than us. And also, most of our team from last season are either injured or knackered or demotivated. So, yeah, it is what it is. Brighton, Ten Hag has spent 400 million, Mark. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. I mean, again, you need to get on the mainstream here because he hasn't. It's absolute bullshit. Ten Hag hasn't spent £400 million at all. Ten Hag didn't pay double the price for Anthony. Ten Hag didn't pay £15 million more for Martinez and Højlund than he should have done. I mean, straight away, that's £100 million I've saved you. Ten Hag Ten Hag wanted some of those players, but he didn't negotiate the stupid wages and the stupid transfer fees. I always find it ridiculous. Arteta didn't spend £100 million on Declan Rice. Why do people say, Arteta spent £100 million on Declan Rice? Well, they're not saying that at the moment because he looks like a very good signing. But the manager doesn't sign the players. He wanted those players, but he didn't sign those players for that fee. And as we know, that money last summer would have brought Gakpo as well. But we didn't get Gakpo, and now he plays for Liverpool. This summer, we would have been able to buy Amrabat instead of loaning him if we didn't overpay on some players. Look, I want Ten Hag to do well. I don't want him to be scapegoated. I think he is being scapegoated. I think there's a movement. I predicted this. I'm not a hypocrite. I predicted it the day he got the job. The media would come for him because they didn't pick him. The fans picked him. The media wanted Poch. Go back and check the videos 18 months ago. We were doing a lot of them. The club have got to appoint Ten Hag. Poch is a mistake. We were very passionate about it. The media wanted Poch. No ex-players wanted Ten Hag. No media wanted Ten Hag. It was literally, completely the fans who wanted Ten Hag, and it's the fans who should be backing him now, because Ten Hag is not the problem at Manchester United. The problem at Manchester United is how the club is run. There's a playing squad that sacked other managers that have a bad mentality, and until we get a proper change at the football club, we won't be successful. But what we will do, because this is what we do, is we will protect ourselves. There are, the reason I read the Richard Arnold quote is because it's an admission of mistakes in the last 2 months. Self-preservation is a big thing at Manchester United, in the dressing room and in the boardroom and with the Glazers. And if things start to go bad, somebody needs to be the fall guy, and it will always be the manager. And on this occasion, I don't think it should be. But look, I don't disagree that Ten Hag could be sacked by Christmas. I don't disagree that Sancho could outstay Ten Hag. I think United are on a knife edge. I wasn't convinced by the Brentford result. I still think there's huge problems at the football club. I'm not saying that there isn't people in that dressing room who don't. I'm not saying that Alan Brazil's wrong. I don't believe it. I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm saying it's inflammatory when we don't when we don't know who it's coming from. Because at the end of the day, it's more leaks. And we don't want leaks from the dressing room against the manager. We don't want that. So we must call it out and say it's unacceptable. And we said it about Samuel Luckhurst a few weeks ago. If these people are going to, get themselves a few article reads or whatever by saying, oh, somebody told me this, I'm going to say never happened. Because who told you it? Oh, I can't tell you that. Well, who told you it? You're basically trying to lose somebody their job. So we'll call bullshit. And why are you not talking about the Glazers, Andy Weatherall, thank you for gifting a membership. I just, it's just very easy. It's very easy to, talk about Manchester United, because Manchester United is always the fail-safe. No one's going to talk about Man City in an international break. So let's stir up a story about Ten Hag. You see it for what it is. You see it for what it is. I mean, look, I'm not naive. I could do a video this afternoon saying Ten Hag out. You know, I've heard it's true. You know, I could make it up, but it's just so irresponsible and it's so inflammatory to a situation that we don't need. It's the, you know, hello everybody, it's the international break. England don't play a decent game till Tuesday. England against Australia on Friday night. No one's fucking watching that. So, you know, what can we do that's going to generate a story? Let's start talking about Manchester United. You know, let's start on Ten Hag again. Hate to say this, but last time I saw Man United win a game, we didn't lose. So, yeah. But the thing that irritates me, and I'm sure it's the thing that irritates you, it's just the unfounded pile on the manager, because it betrays a lack of intelligence about the topic you're talking about. You know, if I walk down the road now and find a university and I walk in first time and go, oh, you're talking about physics, move aside. They want Goldbridge on physics. And these students who know physics, I'm stood there and they might go, oh, he's that prat from FIFA or whatever. And I go, right, physics. This is what physics is all about. It's a science. Yeah, at school I did physics, chemistry and biology. That's 3 sciences. But what's physics all about? Wow, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not an expert in physics and I don't know what I'm talking about. And I feel that that's what a lot of external people do about Man United. They project confidently an opinion about our football club, but completely miss the topic or the target. Because any Man United fan you speak to, whether they like you or not, whether they're from Manchester, London, India or America, any Manchester United fan from anywhere in the world of any age, if you sit them down, and I do family fortunes and say, we sat down 100 Manchester United fans from around the world and we said, what's the biggest problem at Manchester United? And Alan Brazil says, Ten Hag. And you go, Because there's only one answer, Alan. It's the Glazers. Bing, top answer, and you've won yourself a holiday to the Algarve. Like, it's definitely that. So why do we get rammed down our throat? Constant Ten Hag this, Ten Hag that, Ten Hag this. Because it's a lazy medium. It's a lazy story. Let's go after the manager like we went after the England manager in the 90s. Let's go after the manager like Leeds went after the manager in the 70s when Brian Clough took over from Don Revie. Let's go after the manager because that's what we do. And then the media wonders why people are switching off and watching TikTok or YouTube or whatever. Because we get it. We get it. Because we care and we do it. And we know what we're on about. We know what our club is all about. And we know that changing the manager for De Zerbi, which would be the popularist choice, would lead to De Zerbi being sacked in 18 months. And changing De Zerbi from Man United manager to the next hip manager, maybe Pochettino will get his chance then, will lead to Pochettino getting the sack in 18 months. No manager is going to succeed at United. Any decent manager wouldn't go anywhere near Manchester United. Manchester United's biggest issue is the fact that it is drowning in debt. The club is rotting visibly and internally, and the infrastructure is crumbling. The club is broken from top to bottom. It needs new ownership. It needs a reset. Changing a manager won't change that. Kicking Jadon Sancho out won't change that. You know, playing McTominay, Maguire, Eriksen and Martial because they played well on Saturday will not change that. Bringing Cristiano Ronaldo back didn't change that. Spending £90 million on Pogba didn't change that. Like, we've tried absolutely everything. The only thing that's going to work for Manchester United is a reset. Thanks everyone for watching. You're all legends. I will speak to you. I'm definitely doing the 8 o'clock show tonight. There might be a 2 o'clock show. We'll have to see what I'm being slagged off about. But as I said, let me check my phone. No, let me check my email. No. So it's just backstabbing behind my back, is it? Good. You know you've got them rumbled when they slagged you off, but they don't speak to you. I'll speak to you all in a bit. Take care. You are fantastic, and hope you all have a good day, evening, whatever you're doing. Thanks for watching. Speak to you in a bit.